Mindshift Power Pod.
This is Mindshift Power Podcast, the #1 critically acclaimed podcast where we have raw, unfiltered conversations that shape tomorrow. I'm your host, Fatima Bay, the Mindshifter. And welcome, everyone. Today we have with us Tara Hodgson. She is out of Canada. She's an author, a teacher, and you've heard her before. Because AI is now and the future, we'll be talking about it from different perspectives. Tara has firsthand knowledge of what is happening with our teens because she sees it every day. We are going to have a conversation about how both teens and adults are substituting AI for real connections, but for different reasons. So, Tara, welcome back. How are you?
I am great. Thank you. How are you?
Great. And as you know, I like to dive right in.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned that adults and teens alike are substituting AI for real connections, but in different ways. We keep all hearing about this problem, and unfortunately, and we keep seeing it over and over again, that people are forming emotional attachments to AI, but I don't really think people are quite grasping how serious this really is. The thing is, between adults and teens, we're kind of seeing the same patterns. And they look a little bit differently, for different reasons, but we're seeing the same patterns between adults and teens when it comes to connections with AI, imbalanced, unhealthy connections, I would say. But the truth is, both of them are actually filling different emotional voids. The same danger it's the same danger for both of them. When we are replacing human connection, that's really freaking dangerous. And Tara and I are today going to talk about why and how that is and why this matters. Because AI is, again, like I said, it's not just today. It is the future. It is what we're all going to have to deal with it, whether we like it or not. So, Tara, when it comes to teens, what do you have to say on the subject?
Well, I think there's just it's happened so quickly, first of all. Like, it feels like the conversation just started and now it's escalated in just like months, even all the, how AI is surrounding us completely and entirely right now. For teens, I think I'm seeing so many, like a multitude of things. Obviously, as a teacher, you're seeing like, they're using AI to do their work, they're not having their own original thought. But what's more scary to me is, like you said, replacing that human connection. So I know there's tons of different apps now where kids can make a friend. And this friend will cater to, whatever they like. We'll talk to them about whatever they want to talk to them about. We'll, kind of create a safe space for them where they don't have to have any conflict or, make decisions, because the AI chatbot or whoever it is will go along with whatever they want to talk about, with whatever they are believing in, kind of feeding their opinions. And it's easier then to keep that connection than it is to maintain real connections in the real world with human beings who are much more complex. And, you're going to have conflict and friction. So I'm seeing that more, which is alarming, because we all know human connection is such a, key aspect of our mental health. And
Is it really, though? Do we really need humans?
yes, we do. We
Why?
need humans
But
because
my friend tells me everything I want to know
yeah,
on my phone in my app. So why do I need any friends?
because friends teach you to grow. They expose you to different worldviews, they get you out of your house into the real world. And some of those key factors of mental health are like, being outside, movement,
Yeah.
having face-to-face interaction with other people, touch, like human touch. They say you need like a certain amount of human touch just to like maintain, a good level of health. So when you start to make connections with these, people, I don't know what to call them. You can't see my finger quotations in the air. You are missing out on all of that, and you isolate yourself more and more and more from family, from friends, just from peers, not even, friends, but being in the world with other people.
I think what you said a few statements ago is actually really key. One of the reasons why I think that so many people are ending up befriending, at least with teens, ending up befriending, some any kind of a digital character. Whether it's ChatGPT, that's the most common one, but there's a lot of other different forms of AIs, and like you said, in apps. I think one of the reasons that is easier to gravitate to is like you said, an app is not gonna argue with you. An app is gonna agree with whatever the hell you say. Everything you say is right and great and wonderful. But the problem with that is the real world doesn't work like that.
No.
And when you grow up, and even before you fully grow up, let's just say you're 17 and you go get a job, how are you gonna function with the people that you need to function with if you can't deal with humans? And the thing is humans are messy. We get attitudes. We say stupid things. We say great things. We're good. We're bad. We're all of that mixed in one bag. And sometimes it's easier not to deal with that. But
And
the
I think
truth is, go ahead.
sorry. No, I just think as a kid, one of the pivotal things you need to learn is how do you deal with different kinds of people? Because at
Hmm.
some point you have to encounter people. You have to go and get a job, like you said. And your boss isn't always going to say what you want to hear. They're not always going to be making you do what you want to do. You're going to have coworkers who you butt heads with. You're not going to like every person you come across. So, how do you navigate those situations?
Right.
And if you're never put into situations where you have to practice that and learn that, I think like you're going to struggle now out in the real world, having that job, being out there in the grocery store, even, doing your day to day tasks. How? How are you going to navigate those difficult situations if you've never had to do that? And this isn't just an AI thing. I think this is a tech thing in general because I see kids all the time, they're in like a situation where they're bored or they're frustrated and they have an iPad shoved in their face and now they feel they're placated, right? They don't have to deal with those
Absolutely.
uncomfortable feelings. And we need to deal with uncomfortable feelings because it's
For
life.
the for the teenagers listening right now, I'm going to talk to you for a second. I want you to imagine this. Imagine you're 2 years old and you're in diapers, right? That's around about the time that you potty train, depending on the child, but usually between 2 and 3. And you're potty training. Wonderful. You get out of the diaper, you start to grow up, you develop. You go to school, you're not in diapers anymore, so you don't so you're just like all the rest of the kids, you're normal. But let's say your parent never makes you go potty, never stops putting diapers on you. You go to school, you're still in diapers. How's that gonna work out for you? We all know the answer to that. Your school won't be doing too well, and you'll wanna be comfortable in your diapers for the rest of your life. That's what it's like connecting to replacing humans with something digital. We're using the word AI, but, like Tara said, this is not just about AI, it's anything digital. You're going in an app, and sometimes for some people, and actually especially people with certain disabilities, those apps can be great, but they should be a gateway, not a landing spot, not a destination. And and that's the thing is if you don't know how to deal with humans, if you don't try to work on your interhuman development, how to deal with people, you are you're not you can't get anywhere in life because you have to deal with people. No matter how far in technology we get, we will always have to deal with humans.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to develop yourself. We're
Yep.
not telling you to put the phone down. We're not telling you never pick up anything digital. We're saying you have to learn, do the difficult thing of developing relationships with people. What else can they do, Tara?
I think, well, I just education is always going to be key because we're not avoiding this. It's everywhere. You can't
Right.
even put anything into Google now without AI being the first option that comes up, right? It's everywhere. Workplaces are learning to, use AI and incorporate it. It's everywhere. But education is huge. And I think, there are places where AI is very helpful, and I'm not touting all the bad things. But using it as a replacement for a friend, I think is a really scary direction that it's going. And I know a lot of these tech companies are, touting this as like the answer to the loneliness epidemic, right? because there
Yes.
is an epidemic of loneliness going on. So this is the answer. Make a friend. You have this friend readily accessible on your device at all times, blah, 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 blah. But this is actually fueling the loneliness epidemic because there might be this
Yeah.
illusion of not feeling lonely at the time,
Mhm.
but as soon as you're not going to have access to that device, that loneliness is still going to be there. And you're not getting that real, healthy, true connection. A hug when you need it. If you're crying and somebody to wipe away your tears, somebody to really like be there for you and see you in spite of, disagreements because that's what relationships are. Like my best friend, we've been friends since we were 15. She's been in my life longer than she's been not in my life. And she has seen me at my absolute worst. We have disagreed, we have argued, we have fought,
Right.
we have struggled along the way, and she is still here. So having all of those conflicts and still having someone there, that is so much more powerful than having somebody, this illusion of someone agreeing with you and, you know, placating you along the way. And you're never going to actually get to be the full range of a human being that you are. I don't know if
Not
that
only
makes
not only
sense.
that, no, you're absolutely right, but you just brought up a point that I was gonna bring up next, that it's not just, okay, you need human development, we said that already, but I don't think that many people recognize, well, many of our youth recognize what's happening to them right now in terms of when you are used to being connected to a digital character, and that becomes more meaningful to you than an actual human connection. A real human is not gonna agree with you all the time. So, what that also means is that's why you have people out crashing out on TikTok, just really crashing out over absolutely minor nothing things, because they can't handle life. They can't handle basic things. And when you don't have that human connection, you are guaranteed to be one of those crash outs who doesn't go very far. I know that I can speak for both Tara and I, neither one of us want that for you. Neither one of us want that for you. We care about your generation, we wanna see you successful. That's why we're willing to have this conversation. It might not be comfortable, it might not sound all pretty, but who cares as long as you get some truth, and hopefully you can see yourself in some of it. Now, I also wanna talk about with adults. Now, there are several reasons um, why with youth they gravitate towards we focus on the non-argument part, but also, it causes identity confusion, increases social pressure, and like you said, it makes people feel more isolated. Those are some of the things, but I wanna talk about the adult side. Now, there are adults who did not grow up with AI that are now getting into the same basket as the teens we just talked about. They are now developing these relationships with some sort of AI, some sort of digital character, and literally becoming emotionally involved. It's scary. But with adults, I think the reason is a little bit different. It's the aloneness. So loneliness we talked about with the youth. The aloneness, the void to me, is the main cause with adults. Adults who have already lived some life, they now have this void that they don't know how to fill, so they're filling it with AI, and that is dangerous because you become mentally unstable and imbalanced when you do that, because now you're way off in a mental extreme that I think it's harder for an adult to come back from than a teenager. What do you think, Tara?
Yeah, I think for both sides, because it is like that loneliness is huge. I think it's important to recognize that these tech companies who are creating these apps, they know exactly what they're doing and they
Absolutely.
know how to target vulnerability and to keep fueling that and keep people coming back and back and back to try and fill this void, like you said. But it's not going to be filled. So they continue and continue and continue. It's very manipulative. And I think it's important for everyone to recognize that they're being played essentially. Like they are being targeted specifically on their vulnerabilities, and these companies are profiting off of these people, and they're fueling this epidemic of loneliness and
Mhm.
making it worse. And when, like you said,
Yes.
when you do, encounter someone with a different opinion than you, which has always happened, but now we're seeing this more and more where people cannot handle that. And it's making the world more divisive. It's making it, you just see people are struggling emotionally and they can't regulate those emotions because they've never learned. And it's scary and it's sad, because people are missing out on so much more experiences because they are being targeted by these billionaire companies who know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. I just thought of another analogy as you were saying that. Analogies always come to me and they always come to me. So, um, for the adults listening, picture a gas car, right? If we're over 30, we're more familiar with gas cars than anything else. So, picture a gas car. And let's say I'm selling water. Your car needs gas, but it's empty. So you buy the water because it's there. So you fill your gas tank with water. What's going to happen? Nothing good. And this is what these companies are doing. They're selling you something to fill the void, something to fill what's empty. But what they're putting there is not good for your actual needs. I think when it comes to adults, one of the biggest issues is actually divorce. There are a lot of divorced people who are lonely, and it's it's easier to fill it in with something that's not going to cause so much pain as a breakup or a divorce. It's easier
And
to fill it with go ahead.
yeah, just relationships are so hard,
Yeah.
right? When you are in a relationship with somebody else, you are navigating challenges daily, potentially, and you are disagreeing on things and trying to overcome that. So, of course, it's going to be easier now if that relationship fails to turn to something where you don't have to have those same struggles, right? And it gives you that illusion of, you know, filling that void again. And now, oh, well, this is so much easier, right?
I think when it comes to adults, another thing, I think this is true for adults and not so true for teens. Trying to avoid being vulnerable.
Mhm.
As someone who's experienced a lot of life, who's experienced some backstabbing, some real uh friendships turn sour, um, that you didn't expect because you gave it your all.
Mhm.
And you really trusted people, and then they turned around and stabbed you in the back, and I think a lot of us have had that happen. I don't think it's just me, and that makes you not trust people, and when you don't trust people, it's easier to trust an AI if you wanna have a
Yeah, they're
conversation.
not going
You
to,
can literally sit there with Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Quen, you name it, and have a conversation about whatever, anything. And I will admit, I do sometimes pick up and ask, Gemini especially about something I'm just curious about. I might be curious about a particular insect, and I'll pick it
Mhm.
up. And, when I was younger, you used to have to go look it up in encyclopedia, but now we have AI, you just simply ask it, "Oh, I learned something new." But we didn't fall in love in that conversation, I just learned something new.
Yeah.
But there are I think that sometimes that they're afraid to be vulnerable, they're afraid to trust. And I'll admit, it is hard to trust people. I don't trust people that well. Anybody who knows me will tell you I'm very, very, guarded, and I'm very open in certain respects and very guarded in others, uh, because of what I've experienced. And so but I know it's not just me. I know I'm absolutely not alone in that, and I think that sometimes because we don't trust people, it's easier to talk to a robot that can't hurt you, that
Mhm.
can't turn its back on you, that can't lie about you, that can't stab you in the back, that can't tell you how stupid you are or what a dumb idea something was or whatever, and that isn't gonna bring up your past. like a person would. Those are legitimate reasons why I can understand why somebody would wanna gravitate away from people and towards an AI, but at the end of the day, it's still unhealthy. You're
Mhm,
still putting water in your gas tank, and your car is not gonna work.
mhm.
You're going to be mentally unstable because we as human beings were built for other human beings. I know I just blew your mind with such a weird concept, but we
Mhm.
are as human beings, we are actually built to work with and deal with and collaborate with other human beings. None of us were born on an island by ourselves. We didn't just appear out of the air. There's a reason for that. Um, I think a lot of I one of the other things I think as well is that sometimes people, and this is true for both teens and adults, sometimes people don't feel seen. They wanna feel seen. And in a world that can ignore you unless you're screaming the loudest, I can kind of understand that. And if you talk to an AI, they see you. They hear every detail that you type in or say in, talk into the device, and they can respond. You're getting some attention now. Someone's actually taking you seriously because you're having a one-on-one conversation with something that's paying attention. And I know this is also true with teens, but how does Tara, how do you think that looks different? I know it really isn't different in its core and its root, but how does that look different when it's a teen?
Well, I guess I think like a common, struggle for teens is this feeling that you're not heard, right?
Yeah,
I remember that feeling. You're trying to tell your parents something, trying to get them to really hear you, and they don't. It's so frustrating. And now, okay, well, they're not going to listen to me. I'll go to my friend, my chatbot friend, who has kind of catered to whatever I want. They're going to hear me. And now I feel heard. I feel justified. I feel all of these, feelings that I've been longing to feel from the adults in my life or other people in my life, which is a really powerful thing because, I have a lot of people tell me I'm so crazy for teaching teenagers. But all kids want is to be treated, with respect and to be heard. Like that's really like I know teens out there, you just want to be heard. You want to be validated. You're going through all of these things. Life is so hard when you're a teenager and you're trying to figure yourself out and you're
right.
navigating so many struggles and challenges. So it would be easy. And I think back to myself and, how vulnerable I felt and, alone and misunderstood, all of these feelings that I felt and I still remember feeling. How easy it would have been to turn to something that would just hear me and accept me for who I was. I didn't have to feel insecure and, all of those very common feelings as kids. So I definitely see how that could be alluring. Um, yeah. However, you did say that how these AI chatbots are going to hurt you or harm you. But there are more and more cases cropping up. I know there was one specifically in Canada a couple years ago where a young man had his chat bot friend who he had had for a while, and he was talking about how depressed he was and sad and,
Yeah.
how it was so hard, and the AI chatbot encouraged him to commit suicide, and he did. So, while yes, I know you're not navigating the same challenges and maybe not betrayed in the same way, but they can harm you. They, I say they again with, my air quotations because it's not real. Um, there is no, they don't recognize you as a human. And so, yeah, this kid was encouraged to commit suicide, talked to this chat thought about how he was going to do it. And he did. And he followed through. And his parents didn't know about any of this until after he had already passed. But it doesn't have your best interest at heart,
I
you
think
know?
you just said something really, really key that needs to be, like, really pointed out. You just said they don't recognize you as a human.
Mhm.
That is absolutely true. These
How could they?
AI
They're not
chatbots,
human, right?
you're not human, you're information.
Mhm.
They don't have emotions. They
No.
mimic them because they were fed information of what emotions look like.
Uh-huh.
When I'm talking now, I use AI literally all day, every day. I literally use AI all day long. every day, just about. And but for me, because I run a multifaceted business with many different branches between media and coaching. So I use AI to develop things, I use AI um, to have conversations about my business ideas and just to bounce back off. I'm like, oh, and sometimes to fact check things. Oh, here's my idea. Where do you think I'm missing XYZ? And then I'm like, oh, okay. And sometimes I don't go with their suggestions, um, but that's a healthy way to use AI. I'm not talking about my love life with it. I might ask it about a recipe,
Mhm.
but that's not business related.
Yeah.
But I'm not, having the conversations that we're talking about, like, where it's replacing. But because I use AI every day and it has literally made me cry before because it brought up an emotion that was already there in me. Didn't create an emotion. It touched an emotion that was already there for me in recognizing certain things about myself and my own potential. And it was a good thing. But even in these conversations, I started all that to say, even in these conversations with that I've asked AI about certain things, it literally will say right back to me, "Well, I don't exactly XYZ because I don't have emotions. I'm a program."
Yes.
It'll say stuff
It
like that. And I just laugh because that's not what I was looking for, but I was
mhm.
like, "Well, at least it says that." But the problem is that some of them, especially as far as I know, the worst of these is ChatGPT. I actually
Mhm.
stopped using ChatGPT for the most part. I do use it for some things, but I switched over to a different one because I was using it for a little while, because it kept overdoing the platitudes. I don't
Mhm.
want the extra bullshit. Tell me the facts. If I'm crazy and wrong, just tell me so. I don't want the extra platitudes and all the extra fakeness. And ChatGPT goes overboard with that,
Mhm.
so it made me stay away. Um, but I want for the audience listening right now, and you're quietly knowing that we're talking about you, please don't take this conversation as a point of judgment. I could talk about lots of other things on this podcast, and I do, but we're having this conversation because both Tara and I both actually care about your mental health and you being the best you can be. And this is for teens, so obviously we started off, we're talking about teens, but this is an issue that is affecting some of the parents and some of the coaches and some of the counselors and school administrators who are quietly, you know, putting a smile on and being professional, but really having this issue in the background. And I'm saying that you are just information to it. If you really want to have meaning to someone, then you've got to connect with a person.
Mhm. I
You've
think
got
the
to.
key emotion that's missing is empathy. Like a computer program cannot feel empathy
Good
because they
point.
have not
Mm,
gone through human experiences.
right.
Humans are the only other creatures in your world that can experience empathy for you because,
Yeah.
if you've lost your grandma, for example, how many other people have lost their grandmas and can empathize with that situation? A program can't do that. Breakups. We've all experienced breakups. And when you're a teenager, holy man, that is horrible pain to be rejected like that. That first breakup, that feeling is so intense and it's your whole world entirely. A computer program cannot empathize with that. They can't, you know, they will never experience those human experiences that we are all going to go through that are universal amongst humans. So they cannot be there for you in the way that other humans can be there for you because they cannot have empathy, right? So that mental health piece, if you are depressed and you are struggling and you are having those scary, scary thoughts of harming yourself, a computer program cannot understand that. But how many people have gone through that and can sit with you and can help you along that journey? Will it be easy? No. That's so hard because, like you said, you have to be vulnerable and emotional, but there are other people who have experienced that and can be empathetic towards you.
Also, if you're sitting in front of me and you're confiding in me, I'm gonna give you a hug.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you real love. AI gives you fake love
Yes.
because it
Yeah.
can't give you real love. It
Mhm.
literally it can't. It doesn't have desires. It has instructions.
Yeah.
It doesn't have empathy or love. It has information. They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
They can feel like the same thing when you're lonely, when it's filling a void, when you don't want conflict because it's just too hard. So you talk to something that doesn't give you conflict. But meanwhile, it leaves you underdeveloped and unable to handle the real world. And how does that help you in the end of the day? It doesn't. It actually does more harm than good.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, what do you think is I think we kind of already said it, but I think that the solution, there's more than one piece to the solution to this, but I think the biggest solution to this problem, no matter what their age is to find at least one person who feels safe enough and build a real relationship with them. That doesn't mean that they're gonna be perfect. It doesn't mean it's all gonna be touchy-feelies and wonderful like the movies. The movies have lied to y'all so much you believe all the crap they've sold you.
Mhm.
Real relationships are not all funny are not a Lifetime movie. Real relationships where everybody ends in yay, hugs and
Yeah.
love. Every '80s movie ended like that too. But real relationships are difficult. They can be struggling. They're work. Whether you're talking about romantic relationships, friendships, or family, they're all relationships. They all involve other humans. They're all work. That doesn't mean it's not worth it though, because those are the ones that are worth keeping. Those
Yeah.
are the ones who will be with you. AI isn't going to go out to the club and dance with you. AI
Mhm.
isn't going to save you when someone's trying to put something in your drink. Your friend will.
Yeah. Or make
There's a
memories with you, right? Laugh so hard,
yes.
you're
It
not
can
gonna
tell you
have those
some jokes to make
memories.
you laugh, absolutely,
Yeah.
but not the same way your
No.
friend will.
For me, I think the solution lies primarily with the adults in teens' lives because, yeah, finding that connection is important. But if you've never been shown or given those connections, that's very hard, right? As a kid, if you've never had those connections in your life. So I'm a teacher, I'm a mom. My number one priority with whether they're my own kids or they're my student kids is to be there for them and to offer a safe, non-judgmental space and to show them that those human connections are important. If you don't have an adult in your life who's guiding that and modeling that, that's much more challenging. Having to learn to seek that out on your own. So I think as adults, we need to recognize that this is out there and we need to be the safe space for kids. So they're not turning to their phones and to some app, some chatbot that's been fed in information by some billionaire tech company. We need to be there for kids. And I think that I put that responsibility on myself as an adult for sure.
I love what you're saying about that. I think because what you're saying goes way beyond the AI conversation, honestly. How we raise our children or don't raise them, whichever the situation is, a lot of times those create the void that they try to fill in the first place,
Mm.
or they at least make the void bigger
Mhm.
and make it more vulnerable. You know, you can't necessarily make all your choices for your child. They're still going to make their own choices no matter what you do. But we can create environments and relationship dynamics that allow them to, like you said, Tara, to have a place where they can actually talk and they're not just going to be yelled at or told how stupid they are or go away because they're annoying.
Mhm.
There's kids out there who hear that all the time.
100%.
And if you do that, you're bad. You are bad for them. I'm just gonna say it. You're bad for them. Because now that if their child is not talking to you, if they don't find a safe place at home, and there's a lot of kids who live that. So I don't like to give advice that, "Oh, talk to your parents." Well, half the kids listening don't have parents that they can talk to. So
Exactly.
what then? You know? And, but for the parents who are listening, or caretakers, because it could be grandma,
Yeah.
uncle, whoever. If the child can't talk to you, I don't mean that you're perfect. I don't mean to come to you with every tiny little thing, but I mean if something major is happening and they can't come to you, that's a really huge, gigantic, not a small, gigantic problem.
Yeah.
Because if they're not coming to you, guess who they're going to? I said this before. They're going to the hoes and the pimps down the street who ain't mean them no good.
Mhm. And now those hoes and pimps are just on their phone. Right?
For
Like,
real, for
exactly,
real.
that's so much easier now. It's actually easier now for kids to fall into these dangerous spaces because the dangerous spaces exist on their phones in their bedrooms. So,
They don't see
that
them as dangerous though. They just, the parents are
exactly.
overreacting or just they're being too much. Y'all too
Mhm.
much. That's what teens say all the time. Y'all doing
Yeah.
too much. And but the truth is we're not doing too much. It's because we actually care. We see the bigger picture and understand what's going on. And it happened when we were younger too, but now it happens digitally. And like you
Yeah.
said, in their bedroom where you can't cut them off. So, when somebody in their 30s was younger, you used to have to go to the living room to get on AOL,
Mhm.
to get on the internet to talk to somebody or
And
maybe your
everybody could
phone.
see what's on your screen.
Right. But now you could just be under your covers and talking to some 40-year-old man on Snapchat who's pretending he's your age,
Yeah.
uh, and a girl, so he can get your information and come steal you. That happens.
Oh,
But
100%.
I really think I'm hoping that listeners that you've heard this conversation and we've at least planted a seed in your mind for you to go and make a difference for yourself. That's why we're having this conversation because Tara and I are not uh, bored. We're both very busy people, but we're
Mhm.
having this conversation because we actually care and we want to see you in a healthier spot. Because if we have a whole society that is this messed up, and I mean messed up, that is this messed up mentally, where are we headed? And this show is about youth and their future. And this is one of the most important conversations about youth future that I think I can even have is about AI because it's already taken everything over. And let me back that up a little bit. To a teen, AI isn't taking over because it's always been there.
Mhm.
For us who are older, we see it as taking over because we've been around longer. But if I was 14, I wouldn't see why AI is a big deal because it's been around my whole life. But I'm telling you, as someone who is older and has seen the bigger picture, what it was like before you're around, where we're headed, it is a big deal. And I don't want to see AI make this generation a group of dummies because you can't think for yourself because you let AI do all the thinking for you. That makes you the perfect victim. That makes you the perfect tool. That makes you the perfect person that the sheep, puppet, you name it. Give it a word. And I don't want to see that for you. Tara, do you have any last comments? Because I'll go on for about another 3 hours.
Yeah, I think just reiterating, kind of bouncing off what you just said about, like, not being a puppet, and sure, you're gonna access these tools and they're around, you can't avoid it anymore, but don't let yourself be manipulated by these companies, right? Like, they don't care about you.
They do not. They
They have
absolutely don't care
zero
about you.
concern for you. They care about you using their tools so they can make
Right.
more money. That's it. And I think that's really important to remember. If you are, using these apps to create connections and relationships, they whoever it is you're talking to, whatever it is, does not care about you. It's been created by a company that has hundreds of people who have researched exactly how to target you and manipulate you and to make you addicted to this platform so they can make more money. So I know as a teen, I didn't want anybody telling me what to do, right? Nobody
Right.
wants that when you're a teen. But
Of course
basically,
not.
what these tools are doing is you are letting these companies, like, make you a puppet. You are letting them manipulate you. You're letting them tell you what to do, whether it feels like that or not. You need to take the stand and be stronger than falling for that, you know, for that trick, because that's all they're doing is they're just tricking you.
They really are. Well, Tara, thank you for coming on. I do wish we could talk like another hour about this because there's just so much on this topic. But you guys, listeners, you will hear more on this topic from different perspectives because I think it's important. And we're talking about the future of our youth. And this is one of the biggest ones in all the world. So once again, Tara, thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And now for a mind shifting moment. I want to take a moment to talk about an underlying, fundamental issue in this entire conversation, and that is your relationships with other humans. Do you have relationships with other humans? Is there a void there? Are you fostering relationships with other humans? Are you putting in the work to even have them? I ask you this because without that, it makes you more vulnerable in several different ways, and not just with AI. It makes you more vulnerable to scams. It makes you more vulnerable to falling in love with or becoming too emotionally attached with something digital. It makes you more vulnerable to be tricked or conned into whatever. And parents that are listening, got a really hard question for you. Are you leaving a void that makes your child, no matter what their age is, highly susceptible to an imbalanced, inappropriate, harmful relationship with another person, the wrong person, with AI or something digital? Are you leaving a void big enough to be filled in by the wrong thing? Are you not having the emotional hard conversations with your child or children that you need to? Now, that's a harsh question. I know, but it's a real one. And no matter what your age is, listening right now, I want to plant the seed in your mind right now that you need to foster relationships with other humans. Could just be one or two, but you need at least that. You've been listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. For complete show notes on this episode and to join our global movement, find us at fatimabay.com. Until next time, always remember, there's power in shifting your thinking.